people. Give a little. I'll have you, Darren. You can introduce yourself first, and I'll pull second, and tell who I
Okay.
am.
Yeah, I am Darren Anderson. I am an instructional coach in Rock Springs, Wyoming, at the Sweetwater One School District. I work at Rock Springs High School. I am a tech nerd, basketball nerd, as we both are, I guess, and just really wanting to get kids with their hands on technology in schools, also teachers using it and kids using it the right way.
Cool. All right. Well, I am Blair Einfeld. I am a high school teacher. I've taught for a couple of years. I'm teaching right now in Utah at North Sevier High School. I've been teaching, let's see, all senior English, freshman English, and argue and debate. Apparently, I'm the debate coach. So there's a new hat for me, but never done that before. But I also coach basketball at the high school, and just like Darren said, I'm a tech nerd. I try to incorporate all types of technology in my classes. But some of the differences for my district is, well, my school was the first one-to-one iPad school in the state of Utah. So all the students from, I believe it's 8th grade up in our school, the middle school and the high school, all have an iPad. And so we're going to talk a little bit today about some of the bring your own device stuff, which for me, it kind of fits in because they will be bringing their own device. Even though it's a device given by the school, they will be having a device that they have to bring in. And there's some concerns and pitfalls that come in with bringing their stuff. And plus, I've talked to a lot of the students that I'll be teaching. I've been coaching this summer, and some of them feel like their own devices are better equipped for the classroom, even than the one that was given to them by the school. So there'll be some interesting things to talk about in our podcast today. But anyway, so we want to talk really quick first about the bring your own device thing. What are some of the concerns and some of the bonuses? So for you, Darren, what are some of the reasons why you would want to have a bring your own device policy, or in a classroom or in a school?
Why would I want them to?
Yeah, why is that? Or what's the draw to having why do schools and districts have that policy now? Why are they doing that?
I think it's twofold. One, it helps take care of some of the budget issues because not all schools can afford to have devices for all of their kids, or even like a classroom or anything like that. Knowing that most kids do have smartphones, tablets, those kind of things are kind of standard with, even into elementary now. Allowing them to bring those where it used to be, you'd have to put your phone in your pocket or leave it in your locker or whatever, you get it taken away. Now it's engaging them with the devices that they use every day. So it helps for budgetary reasons, but it's also, I think, that's how people do business now. That's how you go out into society and to walk down the street. You see people on their cell phones, see people on tablets doing business, using it for all manner of different things. So it's also kind of exposing them to what they're going to be using. It's not a wave of the future. I think it is the future, and it's such a big draw for schools and for kids especially to know I can bring my own phone that I'm comfortable with, has my own stuff on it, has my own apps on it that I can use for whatever kind of classroom work that we're doing.
Right. I totally buy into everything that I like about technology and everything that I try to do in my classroom. Just like you said, the second thing is that I want my kids to be able to leave the school and have not just be able to function in society, but be able to use those technology tools outside of school. I think a lot of the tools that we give kids, sometimes they can become school specific. And so when they leave school, they go, oh, what do I do now? Or if we're giving the kids, like we in this case give them an iPad or a computer lab or whatever, they don't have that access to it in a normal real world situation, but they do have that access to it on their phones and their tablets they have at home. And I think that's perfect. Now, some of the concerns that I have, or that many teachers have, and I'll just voice them, and maybe Darren can give me some ideas on why that shouldn't be a concern. But I've heard lots of teachers say, how do I control that? If they're bringing their own device in, how do I know that they're on the app I want them to be on, or that they're doing what I want them to do? How is is that a legitimate concern, or is it something that we kind of need to get over?
Well, I think if you look at it in terms of, if I give a kid a piece of paper and a pencil, how do I know he's doing what he's supposed to be doing with that pencil and paper? He could be drawing pictures. He could be writing something totally irrelevant. He could be writing in his notebook, writing a note to his friend or whatever. We don't do that anymore because we text, but I think it comes down to, what are you having them do? What's the requirement with that device, with the app, whatever it is? And if the kid isn't doing it, you'll know because they're not turning in the work, or they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, just the same as you would um, with a worksheet. And I think there's that misnomer, though. Like, give them a worksheet, they're working on the worksheet because they have it in front of them, I can see it. Whereas on the phone, there are 100 different ways to track what they're doing, whether it's through like Google Drive. You can actually go in and see. There's so many other programs that do it that way. So I think that concern probably doesn't hold as much water as it could, because there are so many different ways that we can monitor that now. And it's really no different than having them with a pencil and a piece of paper.
Right. So you're saying, I would agree, but we need to get past the idea that a kid has a phone and they're not paying attention to me.
Well, it used to be like, if a kid had a phone, he was probably going to be texting someone and not listening to me. And I think therein lies a problem too. If your instruction is, I'm going to stand up and talk, and they're going to take notes on this, then we're looking at it the wrong way too, because they're going to be no more engaged typing notes on an iPad than they are with pencil and paper. But if we're having them do, it's less lecture. It's like we're having them do research, having them create with Explain Everything, or some app like that. If we're having them do those things, then we can tell, yes, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, instead of just texting their friend.
Right. So, and I guess being in a couple schools, I've been in a school where we had the policy of no cell phones at all, none at all.
Right.
At my first school I taught at, and so if a teacher saw the cell phone, they're supposed to take it away. I've been in a school where it was only if the teacher says you can have it out, you can have it out. With the bring your own device? I think the bring your own device thought process is, they can just bring their own stuff and we'll use it. But what you're saying is, we kind of all seem to change. If we're going to do a BYOD, we have to almost change our mindset of teaching in general.
Well, if they're bringing their device, what are they bringing it for?
Right.
If they're bringing it just to text their friend or to get on Facebook or whatever, then that's not the right way to do it. If they're bringing their device, I guess it's no different than bring your textbook, or bring a notebook, bring pencil and paper. It's just a standard requirement almost. You bring that because we are going to utilize it in very specific ways. We're going to use this app, we're going to use this program, we're going to collaborate with each other, this way. Then if they see the why behind it and what's actually going on, I think there will be more buy-in from parents who are apprehensive, teachers who are apprehensive, and students as well.
Well, and I think for me, like, when I'm teaching and I see and we're not working with the devices or not working with cell phone, I see a kid pull out a cell phone, then I'm doing something wrong because I'm not engaging.
Right.
And I guess that's my thing, is like, and I don't want to, I'm not the type of a teacher, and I don't think that we should be the type of teacher that will start putting rules, say, put your phone away, or listen to me. We should take that almost like reading the room like a comedian, if I'm getting heckled and
there's something going on.
I can improve my jokes. So as a teacher, I feel like if they're checking their phones while I'm talking, then we need to move to something else, because I'm not keeping them engaged. And so I think that's one of the things that we kind of, as an education system, we need to kind of shift away from, is the idea of the student has to pay attention to me, to more of a, what are we doing to make that student not pull that phone out to use it for Facebook or for texting their friends or whatever. And being in college, when I was in college, I had my cell phone, and they, every once in a while, if I felt it was important, I could I was married when I was going to school, send my wife a text if I needed to. But I think that we need to teach that type of responsibility with to bring your own device, and then at the same time being an engaging teacher. So, part of that now we've talked about. I think on our website we have different ways to use Twitter
Yeah.
in the classroom, and that can be part of the bring your own device. And so in the video, there should be a link somewhere around here where you can click on it, and I'll put a link where you can click on the read the article about different ways to use Twitter. But you mentioned talking or ways to use your own devices outside of just tweeting, or any other type of like just rudimentary apps that kids mostly have. Would you mind expounding on that? What are you thinking when it comes to using it in other ways?
Well, I think again, when you look at these devices and what they can do, because the phones that these kids have now, so much more potential and power than the computers that you and I used when we were in high school, even in college. The things they can do with them are just amazing. But we have them do things like, well, tweet someone or find someone on Twitter that shares the same opinion as you, and all those things are great and they're wonderful. But taking it a step further, so using hashtags to join a class discussion or something like that. So you're talking about a book, talking about a concept in science or solving math problems or something like that. You can have the kids just create a hashtag and then say, go for it. And they're doing it in class. They're doing it, on the walk home or on the, driving home with their friends on the bus. They're doing it at home because it comes to them and they don't. It's easy to whip out the phone and say, this is what I thought of, hashtag it, and then it's out there for everyone to see. It becomes kind of that anytime learning thing. That's one way, the simple way to use the BYOD is to engage them in collaborative discussions, whether it's through getting everybody hooked up on the same Google Doc or getting everybody answering a Google form that everyone has access to the data for. So looking at responses and basing decisions that way. Kids can be just using their basic camera app. I saw a post online the other day about a great first week activity. Is a lot of times parents will, or not, teachers will have their kids do like self-introductions, during the first couple days. And it said have them take selfies in front of different pre-marked spots around the school or whatever and say, these are some of my hobbies, like in front of the trophy case or something like that. The library, this is my favorite kind of book. The cafeteria, this is my favorite kind of food, whatever. Have them take selfies with those and then put them into like a slideshow that they can show their friends and have it there all the time instead of just filling out a questionnaire and talking about it in front of the class. So there are a lot of different ways, simple ways that you can use technology to engage your students right away, and it's beyond having them just jump on this app to do this thing. It's having them do the kinds of things they do every day. Have them, to Instagram photos, have them do Snapchat, those types of things. But make it, related to school with hashtags and certain assignments like that.
Well, I really like that idea, and I do the same thing where you do the kind of I used to call it the me bag, but I love that idea of going and doing like selfies or doing, and we've talked about augmented reality for AR stuff. I mean, you could do that, have them do a slideshow, and then attach it to an image in the classroom where their friends could go around and click on the image and watch each other's videos or selfies, slideshows. I mean, there's a lot of things you could do that would be a lot more fun. I think a lot more engaging for this generation. That sounds. Now, so we talked about. So we talked about some of the bring your own device stuff instead of just tweeting, and using hashtags is a great thing too. Using it to catalog different ideas, and if you use Storify afterwards to follow and then send that out to the kids as a form of almost note taking.
Yeah.
Group note taking. So
you think of like collaborative notes. I mean, every kid is putting in their own input, and then it comes out in one large document instead of, it used to be if a kid missed a day, it was like, well, find your neighbor, find your friend in class, and get the notes from them.
Right.
Whereas you're getting notes from everybody and you're getting electronically, so you could be homesick in bed and still, have access to the things that are going on in the classroom.
Well, I think when you're talking about also dealing with students of different levels, and I've been in a lot of those IEP meetings where a student has to be provided notes for every single class. That gives you an opportunity as a teacher to not have to prepare more notes of what you're doing and just be able to say, okay, here are the students driven notes, and everybody has access to it, and that meets
Yeah.
any of your IEP requirements as well. So.
I think it's also like even some of your brightest and best kids, they hear a lecture, they don't get everything,
Mhm.
but to be able to go back and listen to parts of it, maybe not the whole thing necessarily, but go through and scan through parts if they're recording it or something like that. That's a powerful way to a really powerful thing to put in education as well.
So, what are some other simple ways that we could engage our students with the BYOD? You think?
Well, one of the things we put a post of this the other day about Periscope.
Hmm.
It's an app owned by, I guess, Twitter bottom out, but basically what it is, within a matter of seconds, you can get on Periscope, you can type in whatever topic you want, and then you hit broadcast, and it's live to whoever accesses it. It's interesting. I did one with my kids the other day as part of the post on our website,
Hmm.
and I think the whole thing lasted maybe 11 or 12 seconds. We had 3 viewers,
Right. Right.
and it was nothing. I mean, it was just a dumb little thing that we were doing at home, and but so let's say that there's something really neat going on in your classroom as a teacher. You want to, periscope your kids working on a project, or put out student presentations, or something like that they're doing, or kids maybe they go out and talk to somebody, they interview someone about something for class. There are lots of different options you can do. As a principal, you would want to. We talked about controlling the message of your school. There's so much poor opinion, negative opinion of maybe what's going on in your school about certain parts that, yeah, kids getting in trouble, so on and so forth. But if a proactive principal, teachers, groups of students go out and put awesome things that are going on at your school, presentations and activities and extracurricular stuff and after school clubs and all those, put those out there, because it broadcasts it out and then it's saved as well. So you get the link out to everybody. If they can't watch it live, they can go back and watch it again later. So, and it's really, really simple. It's a matter of just integrating Periscope with your Twitter account, which
Right.
honestly most kids and teachers have nowadays anyway. So it's super easy, non-obtrusive, great way to get your brand out there, to control the message about your class, your kids, and what's going on.
Yeah, I agree. In fact, well, you and I both coach basketball, but I had a player this summer that was playing on an AAU basketball team in summer, and so I had his parents use Periscope to video his games so we could send it to scouts and people like that, so they could, again, like you said, control the message and the brand of this particular player. I imagine the same exact thing with your
Mm-hmm.
um, classroom. So,
Well, and
and
just
the
it's
only
so
I
simple.
yeah, the only concern I have, maybe you can help me address this, is any confidentiality issues with it. I mean, I don't know if you'd have to run it by your administrator first before you do any of those things, but I love the idea of it being creating transparency in your classroom.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I
so
think one thing that's happening, that technology is changing so fast that school procedures and policies have a hard time keeping up with those,
yeah,
because they write the policy for students being videotaped or something like that, and that's something that really didn't occur a whole lot in the past, because you had video but there was no real way to get it out there. Now
right,
things like Periscope and YouTube and Instagram and all those things, I think that one way to address that is to look at the the policies and procedures of schools and say, this is a real thing. If you don't want your kid to be out there, then make sure we know, because this is going to happen. I think by and large most kids are okay with it, and I think most parents would be too, as long as they understand the why behind it. We're
right.
certainly not exploiting children by putting them out there, whatever. But I think it's just, again, it's educating parents about what's going on, what are um, the new and upcoming things that the kids are using and that education is using as well.
Well, I think it just like we've gotten back to real world stuff. I think we're preparing our kids for real world things. You watch YouTube, you see vines and things of that nature. People are you're being broadcast almost anywhere you go. We had a perfect example the other day where I, was speaking at my church and I had kids taking pictures of me while I'm in, there's just cameras everywhere and everybody has access to those cameras everywhere. And I think we need to kind of, I guess, understand that's a legitimate, honest thing and honest concern, but showing kids how to use that properly, like with Periscope and using it in a classroom, I think that's a great thing. So, all right, let's see.
Part
We're
of
going to
that
talk
thinking
about.
citizenship too. Sorry to jump in there, but
No, go for it.
this is out there. It's something that's not going away. So it's something that we need to continue to educate parents on, educate kids on how to use it properly instead of, because I think that's another persona of BYOD is they're going to come and they're going to do bad stuff with it instead
Right.
of saying, yes, they can do bad stuff. How much good stuff can they do as well?
Right. All right. So, what about kids? Those kids that don't have smartphones, or those kids that don't have access to those type of things? How can we kind of incorporate them, or make sure they're not feeling like we're leaving them out? What are some of the things we can do with that?
Well, I've seen some different schools that have approached it in a couple of different ways. One way, probably the easiest one, is most schools do have devices. They may not have enough for everyone. And I know a lot of schools have purchased computers, devices, tablets, whatever, that kids can check out to take home and use in that situation. There's also, you can do work collaboratively, so if one kid doesn't have a smartphone, put them with somebody who does, they can work as a team on things. I don't think, if the issue is, well, I can't get all of my kids on devices, so I'm not going to do it at all,
Right.
there is a way to get most all of your kids on devices at least most of the time.
Mm-hmm. Well, we had an activity 2 years ago. I was teaching Huckleberry Finn, and we were recreating the murder scene, the fake murder scene where Huck fakes his own death, and we did it through QR codes. So we had our kids with their own devices. They were like taking QR codes, and we had kids that didn't have phones. But if you, like you said, if you can put them in groups and let them kind of work together with those devices, I think that's one way to combat it. But I think right now, I think a lot of people are using that as an excuse to not, rather than an excuse to find ways to, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. It does.
So I run into students and parents. I will say, well, my kid doesn't have a phone, or my kid doesn't have access to a computer at home, so they can't do that activity. They're using that as a crutch to not do an assignment, not do something. And I think we need to give more examples of to do it and motivate to do it rather than giving them excuses to not do it. But when it comes to motivation, I'm still learning all that stuff too. So any advice anybody has, I'm more than welcome. I'm more than open to that. But anything you also want to add on the BYOD or even Periscope?
Well, I think again with any of this talk, it's if it's unfamiliar to a teacher, it's unfamiliar to some kids. I think there's a lot to that's why we stick with the more traditional pencil paper textbook kind of thing, because it's comfortable and it's easy for us to do it because it's not a risk.
Mm-hmm.
But I think when you look at risk versus reward here, those who have implemented it and have had great success, and it does take time. It's not like you can start on day one and and have it work perfectly. You have to build up, you have to work through it, just like with anything else you do in your classroom. But to anyone who's interested in trying it, find someone who's had success and work with them, and just tell the kids, we're practicing it. They'll be more than willing to work with it for something like this because this is the world they live in. It's fun for them.
Yeah, I agree. And my experience with doing anything, trying anything out, kids are very flexible with you trying out technological stuff. Now, if you try out new different ways of teaching things, they become really less flexible with that. But when it comes to you, if you explain to them, hey, I'm trying this new technology, they are more than welcome to either A, show you how to do it, because they know, or B, they're a lot more forgiving if you make mistakes on those type of things. So
Right. And that's what I've found too, using technology. Like you introduce the app to them because the thing called digital nativity, where they know how to navigate through this stuff, whereas people of our generation don't always know. If you say, okay, we're going to use this new app, here are a few features, here it is, play with it for a while. I had a chance last year, worked with a sixth grade teacher with Explain Everything, and I showed them some of the basic features, and then said, okay, go ahead and play with it for 20 minutes. Within like 5-10 minutes, I had kids saying, did you know you could do this, or we can do this, or this is the way you do that, not the way you should, So they
yeah.
know, and they're very open to telling you that's the generation, the culture they were brought up in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think we need to kind of foster that because it's not just a culture they're growing up in; it's a culture they're going to be working in. It's a culture they're
Exactly.
going to be living in. And one of my things big things is I feel like most of my students are going to be going into a world with jobs they don't even know exist or we don't even know exist quite yet. So giving them the tools to like tinker and the time to tinker with those things and with their own devices too, and learning more about the things that they're going to have in their hands all day long rather than just an hour in your classroom is an important thing. So we're gonna try and do. I hope this has been fun. I hope we can
Yeah,
do some more of these. We'll post the video on our YouTube page and also attach it on the edtechmaniacs.com. So check that out. Put a couple links in here in the description and also on here. But subscribe to our channel and check out some more of our videos. So thanks, Darren.
absolutely.
It's been a blast. Good seeing you.
You too.
All right, we'll see you.
Bye bye.